Hello, Patreon family. It's once again I, Professor Moptop. Welcome to our weekly Patreon video update. This week, we're going to talk a little bit about something from 1968 that happened just before the Beatles went to India. Now, they knew that they were going to spend a little bit of time away, and while they were gone, which wound up being about 2 months, they wanted to have something to be released while they were gone. And they, in early 1968, they were still writing lots of songs and they wanted to record some stuff. Now, in late 67, when the Magical Mystery Tour film came out, the Beatles got some really harsh criticism, and a lot of people thought it was all over for the band. Well, the Beatles were not ready to give up just yet, but they did think perhaps they should get a little bit away from the psychedelia and the multi-layered stuff that they had done so much in 1967. This is when the phrase "get back" first came around. They wanted to get back to their roots, but they also wanted to use the recording skills that they had learned over the years, as well as the resources, and they wanted to keep doing what they had been doing, which was taking inspiration from lots of strange places. There is a song that was actually on the Parlophone label by a guy named Humphrey Littleton, and it's called the Bad Penny Blues. It's an instrumental, and it sounds a lot like Lady Madonna. It came out before Lady Madonna came out, but Paul kind of reworked it and made it sort of a Fats Domino song. Early on in the sessions, he sang it as his Fats Domino impression. Later on, it became, and this is Paul McCartney saying this, his Elvis voice. If you listen to Lady Madonna, you'll think, yeah, that's Paul doing Elvis. Well, he wanted to write it about universal everywomen and how hard they work and how important it was to sing about a woman. This is very progressive from a Beatle in the 60s. John helped a little bit, specifically with the "See How They Run" line, which is similar to the line in I Am the Walrus. Now, no one has ever said this other than me, but I strongly think that the Fats Domino song Blue Monday is where most of the inspiration came from this, because Blue Monday is about hard work and mentions every day of the week, and Lady Madonna is also about working hard and mentions most of the days of the week. In the studio, they first recorded it with Paul and Ringo getting the rhythm track down, Ringo donning what the Beatles called the jazz brushes, and then John and George added guitars, played through a fuzz tone, and they're both playing out of the same amplifier. It gives it a really cool sound. They also do a little bit of background singing vocals, as well as overdub that they attempted but they never used, in which the Beatles were gathered around the microphone crunching potato chips, or crisps as they're called in England. They also kind of did this and put their hands over their mouth and made fake saxophone noises. Paul then decided that they wanted real saxophones, and because you're the Beatles, you can make calls in the evening and get saxophone players to instantly come into your studio. A guy named Harry Klein was in the bathtub, and his wife got a call, and she said, "Hey, it's so-and-so. They want you to play on a record." So he got out of the tub and wound up playing on a Beatle record. Now, these 4 saxophone players were there. They were a bit annoyed that they had to, that first there wasn't any prepared music for them. It was Paul saying, do this, then do that. No, let's try this. Let's try that. And it took a long time. And they were union, but they were getting paid overtime, and they were getting to play on a Beatle record. So they were fed while they were there. They thought they were going to get some sort of elaborate dinner, and it turned out to just be pie and crisps. Now, no one has said for sure in any of the books that I've ever read, but I have a feeling that they were the same bag of potato chips from the day before. They were ultimately a little bit annoyed that they only used a bit of the saxophone on the finished product, and that it was mixed way down low, and they thought if they were going to get pulled out of bed, or out of the bath as it were, to play on a record, that they should have been used a little bit better. For the B-side, they weren't totally sure what they were going to put on it, but they certainly thought Lady Madonna would be the A-side. George had a song called The Inner Light that ultimately won. Now, he was reading a book called Lamps of Fire, and from the Tao Te Ching, there were some very, very inspirational words, one specifically being, "Without looking out of my window, I could see all the ways of the heavens." George shortened this, extended it, took a little bit of artistic liberty to be able to fit all this into a song. The song is ultimately called The Inner Light. Now, there was a movie called Wonderwall, which was an independent artsy film, and George was hired to do the score for. So in early January, he flew to India, did a bunch of sessions with a bunch of Indian musicians, and he had an extra day, so he recorded the rhythm track for The Inner Light. Then he took the tape back to England, and they finished it up. They added a couple of things. They did George's vocal, And they also added a very brief but very effective background vocal from John and Paul. If you listen real closely, most of the song is sung in single track. There's a couple of moments where it is double tracked, and at the end, it's all three of the Beatles singing together. This was intentional, and this is very, very well done, and it's very effective. Now, George was a little bit, I don't want to say shy, but he was definitely not as confident as he could have been about recording the vocal of the song. And Paul was extremely encouraging, always saying, you can do it, you can do better, you can do a great job. And then when he did, he was sure to tell him what a great job he did. Ultimately, the song was recorded for the B-side Over Across the Universe, which was a John Lennon composition recorded around the same time, which was the next consideration for the B-side. After they finished recording, they wrapped things up and went to India for a while they were away was when Lady Madonna, backed with the Inner Light, came out. Thank you so much, as always, for being part of my Patreon family. I've been studying real hard about 1965 in music. There's so much to know. There are so many lists to go through. There's so much editing involved. Look for your email. You're going to be getting 4 hunks of audio all about Lady Madonna and the Inner Light. I'm Professor Mop Top. I'll talk to you later.